Experience is worthless. Insight is priceless. Today we're going to discuss the differences between the two and how you can become an insight alchemist, converting all of that worthless experience into priceless insight and catapulting yourself ahead of the competition. What are companies looking for in employees? When I look at job descriptions, I see one thing that's constant. Is it that they have a great skill set that's been tested? No. Is it that they're a good fit for the company culture? Nope. Is it that they have a genuine interest in the company's values and goals? No. It's that they have an arbitrary amount of experience. So what is experience? What does that word even mean? Well, in terms of work, it means the number of years you filled a seat doing that required job. So if you're a web developer, it's the number of years you sat there knocking out code or designing web interfaces. If you're a forklift driver, it's the number of years that you've spent driving a forklift as part of your job duties. But how is that valuable? How does that 10th year of driving a forklift add to your personal growth that the first 9 years didn't give you? And I would argue that it gives you nothing at all. I would argue that insight is infinitely more valuable than experience, and that's actually what companies are looking for when they list experience on a job description. The ultimate challenge is that insight is immeasurable and experience is very easily measured. So companies ask for experience and then they try to assume a level of insight based on averages. So a computer company hiring a forklift driver with 5 years of experience assumes that certain mistakes have been made and that he's learned from those mistakes. The problem is this particular forklift driver worked for a lumber yard where if he fumbled a load, it wasn't a big deal, and if he damaged a rack, no one noticed. The problem is we aren't all average. Some people gain insight much faster than others, and some people gain insight more slowly. So hiring based on experience leaves some people far behind where they deserve to be, and other people in positions that they're not capable of handling yet. This problem is exaggerated by the vast spread of interview techniques that leave interviewers with no clear picture of the capabilities of the person they just interviewed. We've probably all experienced the case where the boss brings around the new guy that he's really excited to introduce to everyone. The kid shows a lot of potential, but then 6 months later, that person is either dead weight on the team, or they've quit, or they've been fired. That person had the necessary experience for the job, but they didn't have the necessary insight, or they weren't bought into the company at a level necessary to succeed. We were so focused on the measurable qualities that we totally missed that they weren't a good fit. A good example of this separation of experience and insight is in CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. So Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple since 2011, grew up through the industry. He became very good at converting experience to insight. He wasn't the only one with the experience that he had each time he got promoted, but he had converted that to insight, which allowed him to catapult ahead of the competition. We can actively train insight, and I'm going to give you a couple ways to do that will help you move closer to that Tim Cook example and further away from that forklift driver example. The big secret is reflection with a side of self-awareness. So reflection is just reviewing your experiences for the day and trying to glean any insights you can from them. This can be done in several ways. I do it by sitting down with a journal every evening and writing down my experiences from that day, and then mapping those experiences to a lesson learned. In this way, I turn the experience, I got negative feedback today in the project update, into insight. People would rather get a short synopsis of the project and then get the details in an optional Q&A session. By doing this, I map the experience to the lessons learned, and by writing them in a journal, I cement them in my memory so that I remember them in the future. If you don't have time to write in a journal, that's fine. Here's another technique. On your commute home from work, turn off the radio. You can even just do this for about 10 minutes. While you're driving in your car, just think about what happened throughout the day. Think about things that you succeeded in and things that were failures, minor or major, and review those in your head along with the lesson learned. So once you've identified the lesson learned, repeat that in your mind a few times, and then move on to the next experience. This way you're not giving up any additional time, but you are gaining the benefit of that experience insight conversion. I also mentioned self-awareness. Let me discuss that a little bit. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because if you're watching this video, you already are probably pretty strong on self-awareness. You know that you're not as good as you can be and you want to get better, and that already puts you in the minority of people. Self-awareness in this situation is essentially knowing when you are wrong, and also knowing that the only actions you can control are your own. Sometimes you'll be in, frankly, a shitty situation. Either your boss is a jerk or the job isn't what was promised, and that's causing problems. Most people, when faced with a problem, look for somewhere to place the blame. That's because one of the most painful things to do as a human is admit that you're the problem. But individuals with high emotional intelligence recognize that the only actions they can control are their own. So even if someone else is causing a problem and could easily remedy that problem, we look inward to find out what we can do to make the situation better. Self-awareness warrants its own video, so I won't go into it any further here. Just remember that you are the only person you control. So when confronted with a failure, however small, take responsibility for your contribution to that failure and turn experience into insight through reflection. That's where I'm going to end it for today, guys. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to get more content like this. And if you know anyone who could benefit from learning about reflection and converting experience to insight, think about sharing this video with them. Have a great day.